Hey, what's up, family? It's your girl, Melissa D, and I'm here for another episode of the Activation Hour, where we give voices to the unseen and unheard. Now listen, today's episode, I can't think of a better example of giving the untold story. We're going to go deeper behind the scenes on the truth behind Oscarville and Lake Lanier. Now, I have to give you the backstory. We're not just going to go right into what happened at Oscarville. There are two men who came together and collaborated in a very interesting way, who probably were least likely to tell the story, but it was an appointed time for them to come together and put a voice behind Oscarville. So the Activation Hour, we're all about people making sure that they're telling the stories behind the scenes, the truth, the real activation. An activation is when something happens where you know, hey, I have to be an answer, I have to show up, and it's going to require me to do something I've never done before. So when you watch this episode, I hope this pushes you to tell your untold story and give a voice to other people. You're now tuned into the Activation Hour. For today, none other than Cochrane Jr., the cinematographer from Mad Scientist Productions, and the one and only Bob Mackey, who's the executive producer of this project. So guys, I can't tell you how excited I am to have you, because I've watched you kind of slowly introduce Oscarville with these teasers, and everybody's like, what is this? And for people who may not be here local to the Atlanta area or Georgia, I want to walk into the story, because you didn't just wake up one day and Oscarville existed. It's almost like you came together through your own paths, your own activation. So tell us, did it start with you, Bob, and then a connecting with Carl to release Oscarville, the series?
It was just more of so Carl and I met maybe 10 years ago, probably.
Okay.
I would say 10 years ago. We had a chance to meet through a mutual friend. I think it was at a network event, and we kind of kept in contact. And one thing about people is you remember their crafts and talents, and he has a unique talent of storytelling and cinema. And so this whole thing was understanding, figuring out, knowing that during COVID, I want to do something. My background is nowhere near the production field. Movies, television, that's not me. But trying to get somebody to tell this story about what's happening Lake Lanier wise, and having an opportunity to understand his heart and his talents, I'm like, man, let me just call this guy. And I call, and from there, I think it just gelled. So the script, we've been working on this for about a year.
Okay.
Behind the scenes, script complete, just a lot of different parts of it. Done some base pieces of filming in a sense, but with what was going on with other parts of from the invention to this had to take a back burner. Not to say that it wasn't as important, but just finding the right people that were a part of it. And so reached out to Carl, and it's kind of been history from there,
I mean, you're making history.
Yeah.
I like that you mentioned it wasn't your traditional background per se. And then Carl, knowing a little bit more about you now, that wasn't the case either for you. You've done amazing things through Mad Scientist Productions, but each one of you individually had your own activation hour, turn of events, whether it was for you, Carl, I think a car accident, and for you, Bob, it sounds like, hey, I was in a season of inventing and was rerouted into production, right? And I think the key thing for anyone who's hearing your stories, because you got to tell your story along with the main story, right, is that don't be so glued into who you are in this season without being free to pivot to what needs to happen in the next season. You're like, yeah, I'm still in the adventure. I'm going to come back to that, but this is required now. Carl, I want to really understand more about you and how the makings of Mad Scientist Productions. You originally started out in the military?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a military background. Served 7.5 years in the military. More of a technical background. I was into architecture and electronics, things of that nature. My mother sent me off to the military.
Mama said, "Hey, go fight no more, get some discipline."
Right, go
okay.
do something. But got out, did use some of that background to, pursue other, trades, jobs, opportunities, and consequently, well, I was off this particular day, and went to the store with a friend, got into a bad car accident, and this was at the height of, me being like stepping up in the ranks, in my field, and then that happened, and kind of like took a lot away from me, and that was just the beginning, the journey of healing and finding yourself, all those things, and it kind of like harnessed a lot in me, and just doing some soul searching, it led me back to my artistic, background. It's like what I do now. I've been doing this all my life. I'm used to, I had spinal surgery and everything like that. I was just used to being, doing the manly thing, labor. And, if you can't do this, at least you could do this, and that kept me limited. And I had to intercede with God, and He reminded me of the gifts He gave me, and just through the things I went through in my healing process, just cultivated some things in me.
Sounds to me like the healing process brought you back to who you are.
Yeah,
the original intent.
No,
it sounds like that's the process. I think that's the common thread between all of us here, is that something happened, a healing. For me, it was an emotional healing. For you, it was a physical healing. And Bob, it sounds like you, and all of us were at the top. You were at the top of your game and whatever you were doing at the time. You were at the top in invention and on Shark Tank and some amazing things. And then God's like, great, okay, you mastered this. I'm about to circumvent. You said big time.
Big time.
Okay. Wow.
I think the most important thing was, nothing is unusual to either of us.
Okay.
And when you look at the normalcy of life, it's tradition, right? We sparked into a world that's not so traditional.
Right.
And when you're able to pivot outside of that non-traditional mindset, you explore a level of creativity that's not there. You create that next, whatever it looks like, you're the founding person of that. And that's what happened. It's like, hey man, I love Denzel, I love Jamie Foxx, like I wanted to look and say, what would Denzel or Jamie play in that I could write, that we could partner, and that, and it was like, who could film Jamie or Denzel to pull the
it's
original,
the mindset,
and it was like this guy on the back end of the field, and then with Leak, the creator. I mean, it's just having that opportunity. So bringing the outside of the camera to life, but the activation of that is the heart. You gotta have people who have it's a hard game. Because it's next level. If you're not grounded, from the heart, this is not the place and the stage for you, because it's going to put us in front of those Denzels and the Jamies and Viola, to where you have to be pure in your talents to appreciate this next level. If not, you're going to move yourself away into a spot to where the legacy you have a chance to create is going to dwindle. And that's just my opinion on that. But we're embarking on something that's not so traditional, and who we are is putting us in a place to be where we intend to be.
Right. I think, I don't know if it was, I like that you said intend, but it's almost as if you are ordained or destined to be.
Yeah.
Because I like, you didn't intend, right, to start a media company. You didn't intend to write a movie.
That's right.
Like your intent was to be an answer. Your intent was to tell stories. So like you said, just showing up, serving the gift, and like you said, activations from the heart. It was something in your heart to do.
That's right.
That had never been done before.
That's right.
Right?
And it's a story.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's something, Carl, I like that you said with your company, the mission here, you strive to cultivate social and moral change on a global scale. So we're talking about Untold Stories, and we're going to get to Oscarville, so the people understand what is Oscarville, what's the mystery behind this. But when we talk about global scale, how do you scale telling a story like this?
Timing, man. Timing is everything.
Ooh.
You know.
Because there's a reason that there's a time to tell this story now. Like if people aren't here local, you don't know the story. Lake Lanier, Georgia, very popular recreational area. Unfortunately, it felt like urban legend or urban myth. Like people were talking about there's a whole city below Lake Lanier, and it's proven, right? If you guys don't know the backstory, you can research about Oscarville, but it's been there. But now, like you said, timing.
Yeah.
Why now?
Timing is imperative, you know, and God is the ultimate holder of time and all of that. And so, in the preparation of you yourself, myself, Bob, the things that we collectively went through, it's a language, like you said, of the heart condition, you know. And for me, it's like God putting together you and the people that understand that language, so we could get that purpose done. And so with the timing of it, it brings energy. Right? While I'm sleeping, Bob's working. While I'm sleeping, I'm working.
That's right.
You're working. You got this platform here. You know what I'm saying? Which is part, like all these things had to be cultivated for this project. Things that you went through, things I went through, you know what I'm saying, to start that trend of things, you know, to unfold. And then now too, we have technology. So when you're talking about affecting something globally, you could do that easily now with technology.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So now, where stories probably contained in this part of, you know, the world or whatever the case is, and now could be shared. And now people can start to realize that they're human too. We go through, you know, similar things. We're all, you know what I'm saying, one really. You know what I'm saying? And I think telling stories like Oscarville, because Oscar, you know, I'm sure you know Oscarville isn't the only.
I was gonna say Oscarville is not the only Oscarville.
Right.
We hear of the Rosewoods. We hear about you know what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. There's so many cities that have been eradicated, wiped out in history, but it's deeper than that. And so, Bob, can you tell us more? Like, it's not just, I love what you said, it's not just the Black story, it's a people story because there were so many characters and layers involved. Can you tell us how, as in writing this project, how did you pull out everybody's story to come to rise to the top in a different way? Sounds like that's how you wrote it, right? It wasn't just, I mean, and there's a formula to storytelling, but you know, you got your protagonist, your antagonist, all that. But from the characters and the research I've done, tell us about how you tell all of their stories.
Yeah, so it's a couple of things. One, I believe in the power of collaboration, like bringing in other people to get perspective, and that's why there are 2 additional writers on that, Jesse Freeman and Andy, and I was able to bring it to a point to where it gave a good overview. Right? Okay. The other 2 was able to bring and pinpoint people who can contribute to that overview, and one thing, when people look at Oscarville, and I know you mentioned like, hey, it's a city underneath, but I never saw the city. What I saw was a community, you know, and that's the most important thing to me, is that it was more than a city. It's more than a city that's buried. It was a thriving, well-known community, a catalyst for poultry for the state of Georgia and beyond, the spark of the civil rights movement. You know, when Williams came down to be put, you know, taken to jail, you know, when you look at Hosea, you know, and it's all of these things. And the following week, you had Oprah Winfrey, who came to do a show,
right?
1987.
That was a historical episode.
So this is a spark of the civil rights movement, but it started with a thriving city that was buried, and to tell that to where it's tasteful, because sometimes the truth doesn't taste too well. But we just have to take into consideration of how we can get people to digest those moments. So not only are we talking about the history, we are bringing forth a solution. So those characters each have a piece of history that has to be told. People ask all the time, well, why do people die, right? You know, and for us in the series is, because the truth's not being told. And once the truth is uncovered, it gives peace to those in that community that has been buried. So it tells that legacy. And from there, as we have it, you'll see the curse kind of subside in a sense. And it comes through people, because people have to take action, right? Things happen because a person did A or did B or did C. Money doesn't change the world. It's a good influence, but people who are inspired by their gifts and talents can utilize the resources of money to change the world. And that's what we've learned pretty much through the filming of Oscarville. But that's how it kind of started. There's some characters. You got Coop,
Tell us about the characters whose stories you tell. Like, are these real historical accounts of real people, or is it inspired by real people? Tell us about that.
So it's a little of both. I mean, you got some that's inspired by. You have the Sheriff Wilcott. There is an actual sheriff of the town at that time of the county. Then you also have the mayor, which we didn't go too much into. That's another season, another episode.
Oh, come on. I love it.
From there,
we already ready for season 2.
we have fictional more so. We got Caroline.
Okay.
Who else is
Priscilla.
Okay.
George. George is and we talk about looking at Oscarville as what we call one of the biggest real estate deals of Georgia, right? It was a part of an economic development plan. And why does all that make sense? Because this thing that's called eminent domain, right? If you don't sell it, we'll take it if we need it. Right. So what happened then was a part of that economic development plan. Can't say good, bad, or indifferent. Whatever happened, happened. But it was a part of, and it gave life to recreation. It gave life to value, but it also took away life from value and recreation with Oscarville. So you got Agent Howard, who's a rookie veteran, but rookie when you say that just can't quite get it, and then the main we call Ron Coop,
So he's the central character of this story, or
remember we're non-traditional, so you got a lot of central characters.
Okay,
so it's up to you based on your heart. That's who you consider who's central or not. So it may look like Ron and main character. That's why we have 6 main characters. That's unheard of, really.
It is unheard
right?
of. That's a disruptive formula for storytelling.
Oh yeah, big time. Because it's but it's based on your heart. And it's like, I had to get into video games. Like, I'm a gamer, right?
Hey, give us an analogy we can relate to.
But in gaming, it gives you the option to choose the destination of the ending. Like if you, back then, Mario Brothers, you could only go across, up, down, go through the tunnel.
Linear,
it's everyone, right? But this gives you the new gaming and the mindset. It gives you options and choices. And why are choices so important? Number one is because choices create opportunity. But when you have options, people treat you better when you have options. Right?
That's true.
And so with that, it allows opportunity for people to develop a sense of either love or hate. Because Lisa, as you'll know, she's from the Lanier area, and she's married to Ron, and she doesn't like what's his name? George. She doesn't like George because she knows the heart of not George but his family. Right, and that ties into how people treat you based on the ones they know, and it necessarily isn't you. So it gets crazy. Like I said, it's
it's kind of like when we were discussing it, off camera. It's what'd you say, Rosewood meets Lovecraft,
Annabelle Horror House. This guy right here and Leak. Their minds, like when we just sit and talk, like when you look at the whole 8 episode, episodes in the actual season, content has, and that's why sometimes we got to be careful when we have these conversations, because we can rewrite an entire episode just by sitting down talking, right?
It's an evolution.
Oh, big time, big time.
So the way we tell the story today, based on one choice, can change the path of the story.
That's right.
And that's not just as it is in TV and scripted series, right? Such is the same in life.
Real life.
You had a choice to make, right, Carl? You had a choice to make, Bob. Like at the top of where you were in a crossroads. Like, do I go this way or do I go this way? Sounds to me like you can relate to these characters that at a very critical moment in history, they had a choice to make. We're gonna talk about that some more. And choices are the pivot point of every story.
That's right, big time.
I love it. So when we come back, we'll just take a quick break. We're going to not only talk more about Oscarville. I want these men to tell a little bit of the history, but also the future. Why is storytelling important? How do we empower people to tell stories? And we really hope you see yourselves in their stories too. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. You're tuned into the Activation Hour. I'm your girl, Melissa D, and you're listening into the Untold Stories of Oscarville and Lake Lanier.
I need you to trust me. It's going to be all right. Right now, we're going to head to Gainesville, but we're going to be back. Oscarville's our home. We're going to come back, but you just got to trust me right now.
This nation was founded by men of many nations and backgrounds. It was founded on the principle that all men are created equal, and that the rights of every man are diminished, and the rights of one man are threatened.
Take my hand.
The fires of frustration and discord are burning in every city. Men of goodwill and generosity should be able to unite regardless of party or politics.
Everything you grow here, die here. Everything.
Activation Coaching International, where we're on a mission to activate 1,000 coaches, speakers, and business owners to monetize, repurpose, and package your message, allowing you to attract your ideal clients and build platforms using your voice that generate multiple streams of income. We've helped countless coaches achieve optimal results to get the training and support they need for a successful coaching practice and speaking business. Become a certified life and business coach to enhance your skills and serve at mass. Learn how to build a platform that attracts your ideal clients through Activation Coaching International. Apply today.
You're still tuned in to the Activation Hour. I'm your girl, Melissa D, and this segment we're talking about the Untold Story, Oscarville and Lake Lanier, joined with none other than Bob Mackey, Executive Producer, and Carl Cochrane, who's a cinematographer, and how we've come together to tell untold stories. And so when we left off, we talked about the power of choices and how choices can change the story in an instant. And I was telling them, you know, I would love to be in a writer's room, but real life isn't like that. Where, you know, I mean, you know, when we believe in God that, hey, He's writing my story, it doesn't feel like that when bad stuff happens. It feels like, hey, I just got knocked off my square. Like this doesn't feel good. And, you know, I love that we're reaching back in history to pull this story forward while we're yet living now. And Carl, you were sharing, you know, we're telling an untold story, but it's our story. It's like, it's real life, right? And these are real people. How do you relate to these characters and these stories personally as you write it and as you show the story on screen?
It's synonymous to life and the experiences of life and the experiences that we've had, which prepares us. Which gives us experience about the things that we've done, experienced, and dealt with, and likewise with others. You know what I'm saying? So, in the reflecting Oscarville to current time, is really no difference except for maybe technology and certain things. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, there's some changes, of course, but now's the opportunity to take those things and learn from it to improve things from this point moving forward. You know what I'm saying? So with some of the things that happen in Oscarville and some of the other places, we use this as a tool to share that, and from then, and then use it for a tool now to use that as an opportunity to show a result of how it could be different or better. You know what I'm saying? Again, based off choices and the experience of choices. You know what I'm saying? To reflect currently now what we're trying to do, just make a change and difference.
I love that. You know, as the three of us are sitting here talking, with backgrounds like you grew up in New York, right? You grew up right here in Georgia. I grew up in Alabama. And when you don't come from much growing up, and then you ascertain or you've been blessed to reach a certain level of success, people would look at those who are in media or a show or a movie or a series like you're at this level that feels like it's unattainable. Like in my mind, years ago, I wouldn't have fathomed I'd be sitting here talking to like a director or a cinematographer and all of this. And so what would you say to our audience for those like who are everyday people just living, but they got this creative thing just nudging them like, hey, write the story and invent the product, start the company, because you're everyday men telling an extraordinary story. How do you inspire someone to do that? Because that's the other thing too. You are not a cinematographer by trade. I read in your bio it was YouTube University. You went to work and you start watching those videos and you put your hand to honing your craft. And that's not traditionally your background. I mean, you studied criminal justice, right, Bob? And you went on to inspire youth. You've worked with Girls and Boys Club. And then you went from a youth advocate to an inventor of the Yono clip and on Shark Tank to now executive producing. Doesn't sound very likely that we would have ended up here. What do you say to those who they feel average today, but they have an unimaginable dream to do something?
Start with me.
Hey.
It starts with loving and valuing yourself. That's the first thing. I think too many times people are looking for that validation outside, which keeps them on this constant journey of looking and searching and things of that nature. And you know, even at my age, it's like I take pride in just learning every day.
That's good.
You know, aim to learn every day. Love yourself. You know, and God. You know, I'm gonna say God is primary for me.
Yeah.
You know,
Key always.
Yeah, I can't do it by myself. I couldn't do it by myself. And so once I started to develop that and develop my relationship, that way it started to feed those things of loving myself, valuing myself, things of that nature. And then you start to surround yourself with other people that value you. You know, 'cause that had to be a journey for me too. You know, and it could be a vicious cycle. You know, of a bunch of people trying to find themselves.
Yeah, it's just we're all trying to find ourselves, but we find each other on the journey to self-discovery.
Right, but I think the most valuable part is, like we was talking about over there, taking the time to treasure the moments and the time, you know, and the opportunity. Like I said, with this technology and Snapchat, and you're taking a quick picture and you forgot to even really just love yourself after, you know what I'm saying? Instead of just, you know, just a shell thing. So, you know, just about developing more inside, surround yourself with people that, you know, understand the importance of that. You know, and surround yourself with people that, you know, is where you are. I mean, you know, they're where you want to be.
Right.
So that way they can pull you up, encourage you, guide you, things of that nature. You know, and that's why I go back to saying, like, with this project, it's a social thing. If you displace people, you started a trend of dysfunction. So, we're using this platform to just cover some things so people get back to the soul of just loving themselves first. Then you could appreciate just the smaller things around you, especially yourself, which is real value. Everybody has some gift, something special. And once we find that in ourselves, we aim to help other people find it. So.
I love that. When you find it for yourself, you aim to help other people find it. As I listen to how eloquently you put that, the thing that came to mind for me is no one else can validate for you the vision God gave you. They can't validate it. Why? Because they can't see it. It's like, so Bob, when you woke up, I don't know, I just kind of imagine in my mind's eye, Bob wakes up one day in one of your home projects you're doing, or when you're traveling this weekend, and you're like, oh wait, I'm gonna write a story. Like, I don't know if it happened like that, or like you're like, someone should write this story, and it's like, wait, I'm someone, right? How? Because really, there's someone who's gonna hear this and say, man, I've been thinking about that movie since I was a kid.
Gotcha. Well, I think because I pitched it to a couple of people, like that I knew who could make it, and I was like, hey, why don't you? This will be a great story, like Lanier. You should do a movie on Lanier. You should do a movie on Lanier, and nobody really gave it thought, right? And the analogy I live by is when people ask questions about being successful, is you got to learn how to do the things that other people complain about or won't do. You got to, and you get good at it. So for your question about what do people need to hear, something, how do you pull it out? Well, if you have a high income vision, you have to match it with high income skills.
Oh, that's good.
Right? You have to. There's no other way.
Yeah.
And those high income skills will put you at a place to where you can create a high income market to bring others who have this same, so you create that platform of the ability to produce nothing but the greatest, right? And that's how, go for it. It's no other way. If you can't pay people to do something, you learn to do it yourself, right? But you then look for the people who will do it without even getting paid. And that's where you got something, because you can incentivize with more than just looking at, okay, well, I got to bring my equipment out, I got to do this, or I got to be on set this many times. You feel the story and to be connected to history and play a pivotal role. Where a kid, for me, it was a movie of Color Purple, watching that. Or for me, it was a movie of South Central, watching that. Or for me, understanding the 5 heartbeats of watching that journey. It's like for overall, Walking Dead was like the series for Georgia, right? Oscarville will be the next series for Georgia, and it has that because it's history. Then you transition into the lake park. We haven't even touched Lake Lanier yet, right?
We hadn't gone into that.
It's that piece, but Lake Lanier is the horror. Oscarville is the history. In order to understand one, you have to tell the other. And that's basically how we've come up with this thing.
So, very briefly before we wrap, can you just tell, you said the history and the horror, and we even touched on earlier about the truth for some is a horror story. It's an ugly truth, but if left untold, we're doomed to repeat it, which we have seen historically. Just maybe briefly educate our audience of what is Oscarville to Lake Lanier, and then how they can support this work in the release of this series.
Understood. So Oscarville, and I'll touch it from the Oscarville part, and then you can jump in.
Okay.
Our perspectives are so much the same, but we share it in such different ways. So Oscarville was a community that, my eyes, the catalyst of poultry, of the industrializing, farming, agriculture, right there, Forsyth County. Forsyth County, as we know, was one of the most racist counties in Georgia, right? So coupled, Cummings, all of that. So Oscarville, the town and the community that in many cases they say was rent out. For us, we're trying to get people to understand and decide on, was it facts or was it fear? right?
Okay.
So when you look at having everybody vacate the town, were they fearful of what was to come, or did they know what was gonna come on that same notion? So looking at the town of Oscarville flooded out for the recreation,
Yes.
a dam, Buford Dam, as we
Dam.
know, and you can drive and go by all of this great stuff.
You can.
But it was a decision and part of the economic development plan, and that was just something was in the way, and it had to be Oscarville. So it sits underneath. A lot of the burials were never given the proper burial or graved.
Yeah.
You also had a lot of homes that were just flooded altogether. And that's pretty much, without going into too much detail.
Yeah.
But Forsyth, Oscarville, Cummings, Gameville, it played an amazing part of the civil rights movement.
Yes.
To where it got us to where we were at that time. But Oscarville created its own civil rights movement because it was a white mob that created this fear because of a young lady who was hung to death or beaten, rather say, pretty bad. And it was a group of 5 black teenagers, or 5 black men who were chased. One was caught, or a couple were caught, and 2 were hung, and others were just never found again. So that gave the fear, and we've recreated that scene with the farmers and the family leaving Oscarville and looking at moments of history that they're passing to bring us to modern day.
Whew, that's chilling to recreate something like that. As a cinematographer, how is that for you to recreate?
Fun. And it's like you said, when you're put in this position, you have to be ready to do something that you've never done before. And so that's what I'm looking forward to doing in those particular situations and scenarios, because it makes a difference. Those are pivotal times and moments that changes everything from choice and choices.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna uncover shed some light on the cause and effects of those type of things, and as it pertains to this day, like gentrification is
It's
it's
one of
kind
the
of like
original gentrification stories. It's
Right.
been the history of our country.
Right. So, bringing light to that type of thing and how we could prevent that just in our own communities, just through learning from the history, learning how to develop more so we stand stronger more. You know what I'm saying? So there's going to be some teaching moments. There's going to be some teaching moments on, again, the effects of being displaced and, just being in this constant trauma. So.
This is so good. Well, listen, you guys have heard the story, heard their story, the storytellers behind the Untold Story of Oscarville. So tell us the release date for this project and how we can connect with the project on social media and online and follow the journey.
So it is our goal to have this project picked up by a major network, and I think we have some eyes on us within that. So how we're looking at this as a non-traditional phase, we're rolling out episodes. We're looking to partner with a local college here in Atlanta, Georgia, to kick off Black History Month with displaying recent filming, current filming as one of the intro episodes to Oscarville. So we're going to take and create these moments, kind of like bringing the show to communities.
Yes.
And then once that larger network of sort takes hold of it, they can utilize their resources in getting in front of the eyes. We're spending our time connecting with the hearts of the show. So whether if it's Hulu, Netflix, Prime.
You hear that, right? Hey, we got to bring the story to you.
Who else? Who we got?
All of them. I love that.
HBO Max.
HBO Max.
Yes.
Every listen, everything on HBO Max. Here's the thing. I love that the essence of what you're doing is the community is at the center. Like you said, it's not a story about a city, it's a community. And so why not start with community
big time.
for them to tell their story, wrap their arms around it, and carry the message. So the website for the show is OscarvilleSeries.com.
Yes, OscarvilleSeries.com.
OscarvilleSeries.com. Stay connected. Make sure you follow them on social media and all of their social channels so you can be a part of the community activations and the launch of carrying out the story of Oscarville. Yeah. And how can our audience stay connected to you, Carl, and to you, Bob, in the works that you're doing?
On Oscarville TV series or Facebook.
Yes, Facebook. Yeah.
We definitely see some posts, content on that. On my personal site, production site, it's at The Only Mad Scientist on Instagram and Mad Scientist on Facebook.
Awesome. And Bob, for you?
So Oscarville, the television series, Facebook, Make It Happen Bob on Instagram, Bob Mackey, all around. But I will say what we're leading into, we've also created that next series with different stories that will bring it to life. So we're just not looking, this is just the catalyst for that. So
it's only the beginning.
Oh yeah, big time.
Just getting started.
Is already, I mean, when you talk about Black Wall Street, right? I mean, it's all of these things, and we're saying it here because sometimes people make things a trend, right? But this is not a trend. This is something that we felt that we have to be tenacious in our storytelling. And think of what's happening next, and that's how we're able to. We encourage the trend followers or whatnot, but we want to bring real life solutions to real life stories, and we've already started doing that with a collaboration between Carl and I, Mad Science Productions, and the production company.
I love it. We have to be the solution to telling our own story. So as you've heard their stories and the unveiling of the Oscarville story from their perspective, what's your story? What untold story is lying inside of you for you to tell, whether it's through your art in any creative way? Challenge yourself, activate yourself to hear Oscarville and find yourself in the history so you can become who you need to be today. I'm your girl, Melissa D. Make sure you stay connected. Hey, if this was good for you and you got inspired, don't be selfish. Share it with somebody. Hit that subscribe button, hit the share button, write a review. We want to keep bringing you great content and amazing stories of activation like this. We'll see you on the next episode. Stay activated. Bye, family.